All right, so just want to briefly explain what happened today with Shelby Poore-McIntosh getting sentenced. Just want to briefly mention the court proceedings. What happened?
Okay, she was on for sentencing today, and she was enhanced on what we call the back end of her sentence. The court felt that he was able to do that based upon her pre-sentence investigation. What he felt was there was something in it which was so egregious that he was unable to keep to the promised sentence. So he enhanced it to 4 to 15 instead of 4 to 12. Otherwise, he kept to his sentence. She would have been allowed to vacate her plea if she chose based upon that enhancement. She did not. She did agree to the 4 to 15 and was sentenced accordingly.
So was that a surprise to see her decide not to vacate her plea?
No, not really. What it does is it could extend her sentence depending upon what the Department of Corrections eventually does in terms of her sentence. But it was not a complete sentence. I think she had the opportunity to speak with her counsel about it, and they had a very lengthy discussion and came to the conclusion that she would continue forward with her plea and sentence, and was sentenced accordingly.
Now, I'm not familiar. What would have happened if she did vacate her plea? And just from my knowledge.
Oh, she would have gone back, and we could have, we did it by Superior Court information, so it would have vacated that, and she would have gone before a grand jury, and we could have potentially looked at whether or not we could have charged her with anything greater, and then she could have been looking at the full range of potential sentences if we could have charged her with anything greater. If not, she would have been looking at a full sentence.
Okay.
If
the second sentencing and final sentencing in this case.
Yes.
So overall, how are you feeling after getting this sentence established? I mean, how do you feel after this case ends right now?
You can never say you feel good because you have the death of a 3-year-old. So there is nothing that can feel good about that. Do you feel closure? You feel some closure in terms of the fact that individuals responsible have been through the criminal justice system and have, for the words that are used, been brought to justice and have received sentences. But you struggle with the personal lasting effects of what you've seen. Same with all the first responders, the doctors and nurses, all the medical personnel, all the police who dealt with this case. Those parts never go away. Knowing what the family has to live really without never goes away, and nothing alters that or fixes that, and it never will, and it never has over 24 years, no matter what case you deal with. That's always left lingering. But this part is done. The criminal justice system part is done. But the emotional part never is.
Right. So, how has this been for the family as well? Because I know, I believe it was Carolia's aunt spoke today, and she also spoke at the other sentencing.
Yes.
So, overall, what's the sense that you've gotten from the family?
I think the same situation. When a case of this nature happens, first of all, you're in shock a family is in shock for such a long time. And they, I think, always have mixed emotions. Those are always emotions that you have to ask them about, but you just try to, because you have to go forward. You still have to put one foot in front of the other, but no one knows how to do that until you have to do that, and no one wants to have to do that. How do you live without this precious child, but yet this precious child's life was horrible at the hands of her mom and Mr. McDermott? Do you wish that life back for that child? No, not under those circumstances. But how as a family do you put that all together? How do you emotionally live with that? How do you emotionally live with someone that you cared about who did this to them? These are all things that they're going to have to figure out, and there's no path, there's no great answers. Sometimes there are no answers for that, and these are things that all sorts of families live with when great tragedies have happened in their life. one day they wake up and their life is as it is, and they get a phone call or a knock on the door, or sadly some people find out on Facebook, and their life, it's not a 180-degree turn, it's a 360 whirlwind, and we don't know how to handle that, and that's what they have to deal with, and there are no perfect answers, there are no great answers, and they just have to make their way through it. And we reach out to them and we try to help them, and we're here for them, but it's a step at a time, and sometimes it's one step forward and 6 steps back, and they keep going. You got to keep going day by day.
Sure.
You think 4 to 15 years is a fair sentence in a case like this?
I don't know that there is a fair sentence. A child's life has been taken. A life has been taken in a horrible manner. So what sentence is appropriate? And I discussed that a little bit at sentencing in terms of the difference between what the criminal justice system sets for a standard of conduct and what we morally think is a standard of conduct. The two don't always fit together. So within what guidelines the criminal justice system sets, this is almost the maximum that is set. The maximum is 5 to 15, so basically under those circumstances, yes. Does it morally fit what has happened and what this child went through? Absolutely not. You can't bring back this child's life. So there is no justice that answers that question.
Okay. Pretty much covered. Anything else?